ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Rebels Flux. My name is Chris Netto. I am joined today, and it's very early in the United States. Sun's out, guns out. You know what I'm talking about. I have with me special guest all the way from the UK, Mr. Dan Lee. How are you, sir?
I'm very good, thank you. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon here, so I've had a few hours to warm up.
Yes.
I'm not as fresh as you.
Oh, no, well, I'm definitely not fresh. Believe me, at this point, I'm fueled by, very, very strong coffee. As a matter of fact, I may have to add a little more cream because it's a bit bitter. Anyway, sir, you are the managing director at Hewshott International. Give us a little bit of background on who Hewshott is, what it is that you guys do, and what is your specialty.
Yeah, absolutely. So Hewshott International is a global consultancy firm. We started off as AV consultants. Over time, we added a number of disciplines such as IT and acoustics. And actually now we'd refer to ourselves as technology consultants, primarily because what our clients are looking for is someone to help them with the technology part of their project. Project teams and project managers are very good at delivering buildings and furniture and carpets, but all of the technology elements as they come together and converge need some special consideration. And so we have set ourselves up in such a way that we can provide services across all of those different elements: IT, AV, acoustics, BMS, sometimes property management in hotels. So various different systems under a technology umbrella.
You obviously also provide a fashion consultancy because that shirt is wicked.
Well, I was on vacation recently. I came back about a week and a half ago, and I'm struggling a bit to let go of the vibe. So just trying to
keep the vibes going.
As I can. It's also sunny in the UK today, which is not that unusual, but for it to be this nice is
fairly unusual. It's cloudy and rainy and kind of dreary typically, but hey, when I was there last year, it was kind of nice. So I hope I have that luck again this year. You said consultancy. Let's start by, I want to be able to compare a US type consultancy versus a British or UK or European style consultancy. Okay. When you say consultancy, part of your services is the traditional stuff, the design build drawings, RFP for bids, or as you guys call them, tenders. Yep. Is that correct? Is that still the same as it is here in the US?
Yeah, absolutely. So everything through from the very beginning with needs analysis, that discovery phase where we're talking to end users and various stakeholders about what rooms need to do, and taking that through the design process to the point where it's an RFP that's biddable by contractors.
Awesome. And it's safe to say that you guys are also hands-on when it comes to the technology. I mean, obviously, I've seen you at various shows. I know that you're a frequenter of the shows. You're there, obviously, looking at technology. So do you guys have like your, hey, I'm talking to somebody from the UK. I got to bring this up. Your Q, type person who basically will test out what's new and groovy or kind of cool or whatever's working now in the AV space and approve it for your bid stuff? Do you guys have that equipment verification or tester or kind of nerd that sits off and plays with the gear before you guys start implementing it?
Yeah, so I think we're quite lucky as an organization. It certainly suits me in that almost all of the staff globally are in technical roles. So we don't have a huge proportion that's back office or administrative. People are consultants, or they're working in CAD or BIM, or they're project managers. So everyone's quite interested in the technology. Everyone understands it. The other nice thing is that because we've got offices all over the world, we're speaking to manufacturers and end users all over the world. So we're getting a good view of trends as they pop up in different places. Australia, for example, has always been considered at the leading edge where higher education is concerned. So that's really useful that our consultants in Australia can feed back to us here, and we can share that with our higher ed clients in this region. In terms of actual functional testing, we've actually moved offices to this one that I'm in quite recently. And the reason we did that is because we wanted to add a tech lab, as we call it. So we've got a space downstairs, which is essentially a blank canvas full of benches. And we use it for proof of concept testing. We use it for comparison testing. We bring manufacturers in. But more importantly, we bring client teams in as well. So the traditional consultancy process, as you're quite familiar with, I'm sure, you got to the point of RFP, and then you went to market, and then you had an integrator who would build the first 5 rooms, let's say, and then you'd go and do off-site testing. But you'd already issued the full PO, and you'd already started buying and building rooms at that point. What we've done is we've inserted a stage before the RFP goes to market, where with the support of the manufacturers and the distributors, we actually mock those systems up for the client to come and have a look at before they commit to that system being procured.
Does that equal better customer satisfaction, or is that more angled towards verifying that what you're doing is right?
Both. I mean, absolutely. We're able to be much more confident with the clients around our designs because we're going to test them, or we have tested them. We're able to test things that you can't verify on paper. For example, unified communications very much now relies on the end user's own device in a lot of cases. What you can't tell on paper is if the specific build of client X's laptop works with UC device Y, right? So you don't know what will happen when they plug in their laptop for the first time. Will it auto-select the camera and the mic and the speakers? Will it not? So those are the sorts of things we're looking to test, more so than whether we can control this screen with that control system. Everyone's comfortable with those elements of the system. But it's those things that you normally wouldn't know until you're in the first room on the first day at commissioning stage. Client walks in with their laptop, plugs it in, doesn't work the same way mine did 5 minutes before. Those are the things we're looking to identify long before we get to that point, hopefully.
Yeah, a lot of the problems that I came across as a technology end user or tech manager or whatever you want to call me, I was an on-site tech, was that, not only was it that the systems, I had to plug my laptop in and see how they turned on, but if my laptop was, say, a Lenovo and the next one was a Dell, it answered that USB connection very differently. How it appeared. Did it auto do it? Did it make that auto switch to a USB camera? Did it not recognize it? It was a lot of weird testing. You would think that in the corporate space, everybody having one PC, unfortunately, all PCs are different, and every life cycle is different. Mm-hmm. So you had these weird anomalies. I commend you for at least attempting to have a couple versions of the laptops that the customers are going to be using, especially in a world now, and we'll probably jump right into it with huddle spaces. Mm-hmm. How has huddle rooms changed your business? Because I would assume that, say 5-10 years ago, it was more focused on custom programmed, rooms where maybe you didn't do 100 rooms like you would a huddle space, but now you're maybe doing 20 big integrated projects and the maintenance that comes with it. How has huddle changed how you guys do business?
Yeah, so it's changed a couple of different things for us. So when I first started doing corporate AV, it was an environment where a large floor of a building would have 1 or 2 VC rooms in the corners, normally with a nice view, and they would cost, let's say, $100,000, just to pull a number out of the air. What we're seeing clients do now is have lots more rooms at lower cost, with the not even simplified functionality, because actually the functionality is quite the same. It's just delivered in a simpler way. The rooms still do the same thing. Fundamentally, what we find people want to do in their rooms is take content that they have and share it with people, whether those people are in the room or not. That's basically the function of most meeting rooms and most meetings when you actually distill it down to basics.
So wait a minute, you're dropping an information megaton bomb here, bunker buster, if you will. In the last 20 years, the reason for conference rooms hasn't changed.
Not really.
Just a little bit of the brands and the way we're delivering the technology. For you that are people that are listening, there you go. Conference room. I guess their overall what we need a conference room for hasn't really changed, has it, Dan?
Not really, no. I mean, the nice thing about the way we approach projects, I think, is that we start with requirements and then we end with equipment. So, whereas with the best will in the world, manufacturers and even integrators are approaching design conversations already thinking about suitable technologies, we really try and strip back to the point where we're saying, okay, what does this room need to do? Forget completely about how it will do it. It doesn't matter to you, Mr. End User, whether it's box 1, 2, or 3. What does the room need to do for you? And what that means is that we get simplified, distilled requirements for rooms that we can put alongside each other across a number of client organizations. And actually, as we've just said, the fundamentals of what a meeting space needs to do haven't changed much, are quite similar across organizations, and are quite similar across spaces within organizations. They just vary in size typically. So whether it's 4 people or 400 people, the larger spaces, you may want to interact a bit more with the audience in a different way because they can't hear you speaking across the table. But ultimately, you want to share information with the people in the room and the people that aren't in the room, and vice versa.
You found the golden ticket. You have found the golden ticket.
You know what to do with it now.
What to do with it, how to cash it in is the question. So along those same lines, you've been doing this for a bunch of years. Has there been a change in how manufacturers interact with consultants? And where I'm going is, have manufacturers opened up to the fact that maybe consultants and the end users have requests on how they want to use products? Have they become more open to that conversation about, maybe your product should do this, or maybe we don't like the way it does that? And where is the integration into box X? Not that box X is important, but box X is kind of what we have on site. How are you fixing that? Do you see that AV manufacturers have moved into open, I guess, to conversations regarding needs of the customer?
I think so. I think the nice thing here in the UK in particular, and I don't know for sure that it isn't the case elsewhere, but through participating in things on Twitter, I get the feeling that in the UK, the relationship between end user, consultant, integrator, and manufacturer is more of a collaborative, team-focused approach. So my experience of projects in other areas in the world, previous to my role here at Hewshott, have been that integrator and consultant are often kind of trying to score points off each other. Integrator wants to point out something that consultant missed, and vice versa. I think here in the UK, definitely, and maybe it's because the sector is a bit more mature, I don't know, but certainly here it is much more of a collaborative approach, and we have good working relationships with integrators and with manufacturers that we're able to use. Ultimately, what we want to do is deliver the best product we can for the client on time and under budget. Everyone's goal is the same, so it just makes sense to come together to do that as a team, I think. Yeah. There's obviously some conversation around the larger integrators wanting design build, which maybe in their minds doesn't leave room for a consultant. But I think certainly the ones we've worked with, we've been able to show them some value that we can add and how we can make it easier for them when they do get appointed. By the time they get appointed, we've done some things that have made life easier for them already.
I think ultimately it's the customer who's going to decide. Do they want somebody with skin in the game? Or do they want somebody who's just coming in to develop the idea, hand over the blueprint for somebody else to go ahead and build? At least that's what I've seen. That's what I found with customers is they have two. They either want that, for lack of a better expression, one throat to choke, and a lot of people hate that, where it's all in one, we do everything, under the sun, versus the specialized, hey, we're here for the drawings, the actual, concept of the idea, putting it together, developing the plan, and then handing that part off, and we're okay with that. Some consultants do that. We've now seen consultants in the United States take different models. I worked for a company that was doing their programming, removing that from what typically would have went to the installer to decide, here's our drawings, go figure out how it's going to work. So some consultants were actually picking up in-house programmers, not just for control, but also for DSP, which is important, and other devices that required setup and programming, right?
I think that's a really interesting area and it's possibly one of the reasons that the integrators and consultants in some regions are still butting heads. I think ultimately our goal is to develop a method of delivering each project that best suits the client, the location, the circumstances. If we're going to deliver as a consultant 20 projects across the world, across our various regions using 20 different integrators, then maybe there is a conversation to have about us bringing programming into our scope through the use of a third-party programmer who can work globally across all those sites. There's probably value there. If we're doing a single project in one location with a strong local integrator who has good in-house programming, there's no value there for the client. And I think that's the key. That it's not about value for us or for the integrator. It's not about the fees we charge. It's about delivering the best product at the end of it.
Yeah, it's a good way. I think that part of the set behind in-house, keeping the programming in-house with the consultant, at least what I am privy to or was privy to, was that when we designed the system, we went right down to the wire numbers, right? And if you wired it correctly according to the drawings and used our drawings, and then staged it, and we sent over the code and you inputted that code, everything should light up and work. And if it didn't, it was on us. I had integrators that liked that. You know what? Our job is to buy the equipment, ship it, build it, install it, call you guys, you QC it, we make some final tweaks, project done.
Yeah.
I didn't, as a consultant, pick up any services after that. That was on to the integrator who did the job. If the job was done right, I'm assuming the client had no problem picking up a warranty or maintenance plan with that company because they just basically plopped it in, plugged in 3 things and made it work.
Yeah.
When the system was done right, it actually kind of went right. So there's different philosophies. And as AV is changing from just moving boxes to services, I think we're going to start seeing some more unique models happening. So you actually brought up a point, and I wanted to go into a little bit here. How do you, well, not how do you, because maybe you don't want to reveal all your cool secrets and stuff like that. But you're a company that obviously primarily works in your particular division works over in Europe, but you do have customers in the U.S. You're not an installer. You guys obviously are the designer consultants. How do you seek out the companies that are on that tender or the RFP in the U.S.? For companies that are watching this right now, how do they get involved in the international projects from a company like Hewshott, who may be handling a European-based company who is opening up an office in Massapequa, right?
Yep.
So
wherever that is.
Wherever that is, exactly. I know it's in New York. Don't ask specifics, and I'm sure my lower third will tell you some sort of factoid of where Massapequa is. That's the beauty of adding these little things at the bottom. So go ahead, sir. How would you?
So we rely
something like that.
Yeah. So generally, the client will have. It's unusual for us to take a client into an area that they don't have any presence in already. So often they have an office, let's say in New York, but they're moving to a new office. So sometimes they'll have an integrator or two that they've worked with in the past. Sometimes someone else on the project team, the third-party project manager, the M&E consultant, whoever it might be, will have an integrator. And then for the bidders that we add to the list, we rely quite heavily on the manufacturers. So we would typically go to the local manufacturer representatives for the equipment that we've specified into the project and look to them to share their expertise with us around who's a good fit. It's not true that we have a list. Everyone thinks that as consultants we have a master list and you have to work really hard to get onto it. We make a list per project because every project is very different and every integrator is very different. And again, we're trying to tailor the way we deliver each project to the best, to achieve the best outcome.
You are no I guess you're no oh man, the word escapes me, but let me just say it the way I want to say it. You use the internet, you use the social media webs.
Mm-hmm.
Has that changed or added or improved or made it worse for your business? It's simply because as you're moving around, you can get extra information just by asking a question. How have you used the social webs to improve the service that you are delivering?
So I think it is a great research tool. It's very easy to follow someone or an organization. So the larger manufacturers are very good at staying in touch with us. They have lots of resource, they have the budget to go around and see everyone and, and put on events and things like that. I find Twitter in particular very useful for, excuse me, for finding and then keeping an eye on smaller and more emerging firms or individuals who are doing interesting things. I find it's a very easy way to, just to keep an overview and to consume those small snippets of information, but lots of them, just suits the way I like to gather information, really.
Yeah, I too, I recently interviewed, and the great part about this is that I interviewed this person, so I can say who it was before, because his is actually coming out before yours. But I recently interviewed Chase McLeod, who is a very bright, energetic person who is using some really cool things in AV that I normally don't see. Like, he plays, and we talked about this in his interview, he's playing with AR and virtual reality to show the customer the space in a whole different way. You can create whatever line drawings you want. You can create what, on a 2D version or what you think is 3D. But, he's bringing a cell phone in, showing it, here's your space, and here's the table in the space. And you can walk around it and do that. That sort of stuff catches my attention on the internet. Those are people, and part of the reason why the show is called Rebels Flux is because I'm looking for people that are not playing by the rules. In your case, you don't color inside the lines at times, but that's what makes you unique. And we'll find out more about you, because part of what makes you Dan Lee is the reason why we're on the show. But yes, a guy like Chase is using that. Is that the same type of stuff that's catching your eye, like the way people are basically positioning their projects?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as well, it's the way people answer questions gives a great insight into the way they're thinking and, how they view certain situations. So the conversational side of social media, Twitter, like the AB and the AM that I'm sure you're quite familiar with.
I know a thing or two about that.
Yeah. I think that's a great forum because of the conversation. So, the questions are good, the answers are better, I think, and that's the purpose of it, right?
Hey man, whoever's writing those questions may be a sharp guy, but the people that are answering are really where the wisdom is. You're 100% right. Yeah. I think that, on a forum like that, we are getting the knowledge of moving forward in our what we know of AV or what we think of AV. I think that a lot of it has to do with, getting the perspective of the small town America guy who is in the middle of nowhere with no assistance, right? Or having a bigger international view from a massive, massive company that's out there installing all over the world. You have those different point of views, and that's enriching for us and enriching for our industry. And I appreciate the comment. Thank you. So we're not going to mess around anymore. We're done talking business. First question I have for you, sir, because I need to get my head into this whole UK versus US in differences in culture. So I definitely have some cultural questions for you. Okay. Explain to me why on the internet I see people talking about, mainly people from the UK, what is a bank holiday? Like, why do you guys call it bank? Is it called the bank holiday, or is it just banks are closed and you don't know why it's closed? What is a bank holiday?
So a bank holiday, there are a number of them across the year, and they're holiday days like you have. They all have specific reasons, although we are slightly different from you guys, I think, in that really what we care about is the fact that it's a day off work rather than what it represented once.
So it's not a day that you can't go to the bank. You're just happy that you don't have to go to work.
No, I mean, the banks are closed because everything is closed. And I'm sure that the reason they're called bank holidays is there's some historic, reference that the banks were closed those days. But
awesome. You're the most
all that
UK
matters now is that it's a day off.
You're the most UK person I know that won't know the answer to this. I asked the wrong person this question. Go ahead. Awesome. So now that we know that bank holidays are just a bank holiday, you have no okay, so the mystery is still unsolved. I'll figure it out in my next question. All right, what do you prefer, sir? The English breakfast versus the American breakfast? And I know you have some experience, including
that's a tricky one.
Is high hop worth the trip?
Well, that is a tricky one. Which do I prefer?
Do you like beans or do you like pancakes? I mean,
I do like beans, but I also like pancakes. I think
pancakes on beans is not cool.
No, that's not a thing. No, I think there's the whole separate conversation about bacon as well, and whether it should be thin and crispy or fatter and not so crispy. Which do I prefer? I think I would have to rank them equally.
Wow.
The thing I like about the American breakfast is that it's more of a treat because it's not something you can get done well easily here. So it means I'm traveling, it means I'm away, which is a nice thing.
Yeah, it's funny because when I travel, my family's obviously used to, hey, if it's an off day, we're having pancakes and bacon and eggs and this and that. I mean, it comes out as a platter. I go to Europe and it's like, would you like breakfast? I said, sure. Can I see your menu? Like, we got toast and we got a pastry. We got an espresso. I'm like, kids? They're like, no pancakes? Like, no, this is not. And I know actually people that traveled in Europe that were like, I love Europe. I thought Europe was cool. I hate that they don't have breakfast. I'm like,
yeah, I think apart from the full English breakfast, which is quite a traditional thing, I don't think breakfast is a huge thing here. Actually, I think that lots of people tend to skip breakfast and just lunch is the first proper meal of the day.
And late night dining. To us, we eat dinner at like 5, 6 o'clock, depending on who you talk to. But,
yeah, it's typically a few hours later than that here.
Absolutely.
And then in Europe later again, Spain, Portugal, places like that, they're meeting for dinner at 10 o'clock.
I live that. I'm standing outside a restaurant at 7 o'clock waiting for the door to open when I go over to Portugal. All right, sir. Another question. Well, first of all, what is your zodiac sign?
Capricorn.
There you go. Do you enjoy long walks on the beach?
I do, but I don't think it's got anything to do with the zodiac.
Awesome. Do you consider yourself a winter, spring, summer, or fall guy? What is your preference?
Well, I think I prefer summer until it's summer, and then I'm just too hot all the time and wish for something cooler.
Awesome.
In the winter, I want summer, and in the summer, I want winter.
Choose one. Next question. Choose one. Lightsaber or TARDIS?
Lightsaber.
Lightsaber it is, man. Of my, but man, God, we agree. Let's put it that way. All right. I know one of these questions, so now I got to put it out because I think you spent some time on the on one. But Cuban food versus Thai food. Which one do you prefer? Because I know
I've only had Cuban once, and that was at the restaurant that you recommended, and it was excellent. I've had lots of Thai food.
Absolutely. Did you spend time out in the Far East at some point?
Yeah, I've been to Thailand a few times, so I've had Thai food in Thailand. I think probably on balance, it's Thai food for me.
Just from the amount of different foods that you've consumed from Thailand.
Yeah, lots of variety. Maybe I need to try more Cuban.
Hey, for us in the United States, the walls are, the gates are open. We can actually go there for the first time in many years. Thank you, government and politics, for making that confusing. All right, next question. You, sir, are a ISC and an Infocom frequenter.
I am.
Don't want to ask you which one you prefer, but what is different? Like, what is What
What's
is
different for me? So
quality for you?
I mean, I've answered which one I prefer, and the answer is there isn't one or the other because I get different things from different shows. So
Yes.
what's different, immediately different in terms of the physical, is that Infocom is a much more pleasant experience in terms of space and getting food and going to the bathroom and all the things you have to do to get yourself around the day at a show. I think that's partly due to the lack of space now at ISE. They'll be moving in a year and that might change. For me, the beauty of going to Infocom is that not many people know who I am. And I'm able to move on and off stands actually looking at technology without bumping into people. I love the bumping into people bit at ISE, but it means I don't get much time to look at tech. Yeah. I do lots of meetings at ISE. I have lots of ad hoc conversations just walking around. At Infocom, I can be relatively anonymous and just sneak on and off stands and have a look at stuff, which is cool.
Yeah, it's definitely different, and you're right. I've seen pictures of you at ISE with the police aviator sunglasses and fedora, hiding your ID. It must be tough to be an international celebrity.
It's
all right, so next question. What was your favorite TV show growing up? I'm sure it's going to be different than mine.
Wow, my favorite TV show growing up. That's
Benny Hill.
It wasn't. It was probably, it depends what stage of growing up. When I was a teenager, I found Baywatch quite appealing.
You know,
must have been The Stand, or I'm not sure. But
it was great is that we were like 6-7 seasons ahead of Baywatch. Whenever I when I would go to Europe, it was great. It was like, what, who, why are they still, what's wrong with their hair? What season is this? Yes.
We had a program here called, when I was a kid, called Tomorrow's World, which was a program about the future, technology in the future, like way far in advance. That was a cool program. I enjoyed that.
Cool. All right. So we got your favorite show. Baywatch could be one of them. Thanks, Mitch, for answering that. All right. Next question. You are an avid fan of motorcycles.
Yes.
Am I correct? Is there a particular type, or are you just a rider, or do you watch the races? Where is your fandom for motorcycles?
So it started in a really boring place, which was wanting an easier way to commute. The job I worked in at the time had a commute of should have been about 45 minutes, but because of traffic was twice that. And I used to watch the motorbikes whizzing past while I was sitting in the car. And that's what got me thinking about it initially. Once I'd been off and had a go, I loved it pretty much straight away. So I enjoy to ride. I do commute sometimes. I don't commute if it's terrible weather. I don't put myself through that. I'm not a fair weather rider, but I'm definitely not an all year rider either.
And what bike do you own? Am I correct in thinking that it's like a Goldwing style?
No, it's not. It's not that big. So I've got a Kawasaki Z1000 SX, which is kind of like a sports tourer. So quite sporty, but also designed to do some miles. So my wife rides as well. So we've got a trip coming up. We're going over to Luxembourg for 5 days to ride around a bit and do bikey stuff.
It's kind of a flat country, right? Luxembourg? Small.
Yeah, there's some nice riding through France to get there. Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Awesome. So you, all right, I'm like the biggest motorcycle poser. I wish I could ride motorcycles, but I am way too distracted. Squirrel.
Okay.
Type thing. I can't pay attention to that. If I was to have one, my dream bike is the cafe style racers with the knob.
Yeah, nice.
I absolutely love the put together look, kind of like built out of scraps. And that was the origins of that stuff. So I'm a fan of that stuff, and I can appreciate somebody who has a passion for a motorcycle. So Thank you. All right. You brought up the missus. Now we're going to have to ask the question. What is Ann Lee's most annoying habit to the missus?
I'm quite, I'm trying to think what she would say.
And we know she's going to watch this, so this is great.
She's often sitting just there, actually. So thankfully she's not today.
You got a week or two before this happens.
Yeah. I think That's a good question. I think she would say that she would prefer it if I was less like the fourth child in the family.
You require a special handling and attention on your own.
I do require attention, yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna have to make sure we have warning labels on you. Do not leave, do not leave your child unattended. That shirt would fit you well. Awesome, yep. Thank you. Oh, you are so in trouble. All right, next question, and probably our last question. Tell me a story behind your tattoos. Is there a cool story behind some of the tattoos, by the way? Don't think I didn't notice. So
I have quite a few.
Yeah, is there a story behind any of them, or an interesting story?
I mean, one of the one on the top of my arm here is actually made up of lots of smaller images, and each of them kind of represents a part of my life up to the point where I had that done. So it's been, I don't know, 6 or 7 years since. And I'm compiling a list of ideas that could go into the extension of this when I do that next phase. So there's a Spanish flamenco dancer there to represent the time I lived in Spain as a teenager. I've got the children's initials. There are a couple of kind of flowers that have, there's specific types of flowers that have meanings. So yeah, there's kind of a visual representation of my life so far.
Cool. I will send you my JPEG. My face can go right next to it.
Please do, yeah.
Please leave a spot open for me. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time and getting to letting us get to know who you are, how consultancies in the UK operate. Obviously, as Hewshott does, do things a little differently. You, sir, are not you're definitely the square peg trying to fit into a round hole, and I absolutely appreciate that.
And hopefully that's a good thing.
And honor that. So now that we know that you can't make up your mind between breakfasts of which breakfast is better, you obviously can't judge that. You can't, you do have a knack for style and shirts and floral patterns, which is
as a consultant, we're completely independent. So when it comes to breakfast, I couldn't possibly endorse one or the other.
Make a hard decision. That is awesome. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Dan, where can we find out more information about Hewshott, and then where can we find more stuff about you?
So Hewshott is hewshott.com. That's probably the best place to start. We're on Twitter as well. All the links are there on the website. And about me, I'm on LinkedIn. You'll find me easily enough, or I'm on Twitter at DanLeeAV.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. If you guys want to find out more about Dan, connect with him on Twitter. He is actually somebody who will answer and respond, and you may even get a DM. Who knows? You may get lucky with that. And you two are more than welcome to send him design ideas for his next sleeve that he's working on. If not, you can use my Twitter handle if you'd like on your sleeve. I'd be honored at Chris_Netto. That will be right below here. That's where you can find me. The sponsor of the show, Starin.biz. That is the website. They are the sponsor of the show. That's who I work for. They're also right below here on this lower third right now. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time. And this has been another episode of Rebels and Flux. My name is Chris. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Rebels and Flux.